नमस्कार सभी भक्तजनों का स्वागत है हमारे थर्सडे के जूम सत्संग मीटिंग में। हम लोग कथा उपनिषद का अध्ययन कर रहे हैं। उससे पहले हम मंगलाचरण से आरंभ करेंगे। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टवाङ्गं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। ॐ स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवा स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तक्षर्यो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुलङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। हरि ओम।
नमस्कार जी। ये कौन सा पेज है?
मैं अभी खोलने जा रहा हूँ, तो फाइल्स में जाएंगे तो उसमें से खोलेंगे। या तो ये पेज नंबर 78 है, जो हमारा कथा उपनिषद इंग्लिश का वर्जन है।
अच्छा,
वो मेरे सामने है। तो हम लोग कथा उपनिषद का अध्ययन फिर से उसी में आ रहे हैं। एंड दिस वन इज नंबर 12 श्लोका इसमें है, जिसका हेडिंग है द मेथड ऑफ योगा। तो श्लोक है, एषा सर्वेषु भूतेषु गुधोत्मान प्रकाशते दृश्यते त्वग्गर्यया बुद्ध्या सूक्ष्मया सूक्ष्म दृशिभिः। Translation is, this Atma is not visible, though hidden in all beings. With all the efforts of the mind and senses, the Atma does not reveal himself to them because he is hidden in all things and therefore does not manifest himself. In the earlier mantras, we have been given to understand that there is a gradation of density in the manifestation of the Atman, from senses to mind, mind to intellect, and intellect to the universal denominator of all things. In all these, the Atman is hidden in every stage of being, in every object, visible and conceivable. He is hidden in a peculiar way, not like a treasure hidden in the earth, which can be dug out and taken. The secret lodgment of the Atman is incapable of perception due to a mysterious difficulty of ours, and it is such that we do not have time to think of it. We are so one with it that we cannot see it. We are involved in it so deeply that we are unable to detach ourselves from it and stand apart from it as a witness of the world process. The Atman is hidden in the senses, he is hidden in the mind, he is hidden in the intellect, and it is enough if we speak of these, though the Atman is hidden in the beyond too. So we cannot open our eyes and see him, and also we cannot close our eyes and see him, because while we open our eyes, we see the objects and not the Atman, and when the eyes are closed, we see the mental processes and not the Atman. Thus, when we do the former, we are in the world of objects, and when we do the latter, we are in the psychological world. For the Atman, the psychological world is as tangible as the physical. If the senses regard the object as external to them, to the Atman the mind is external. Who is then to behold the Atman? He is hidden behind even the subject who wants to behold The solution to this problem does not lie in anything known to us. We ourselves are an object to the Atman, and so we cannot see him. Such is the mysterious difficulty of Atma Sakshatkara. And it goes on. If you want, I can carry on reading. Uh, the word Atman has been merged into the word Gudha. This is in the Vedic style. The secret hidden Atman is not visible. No one can say he sees the Atman, because he who sees is still outside him. What is the process then? This Atman is beheld mysteriously by the saints and sages. He is known by the subtle, sharp intellect of those subtle seers who are capable, through their purified intelligence. The intelligence or buddhi is not logical intellect or the calculative one of the ordinary individual, but verily the Atman himself. तो बुद्धि जो है वही वो जो सद्बुद्धि हो जाती है वो आत्मन ही है himself. He is intelligence rather than the intellect, the flame hidden in the fire rather than the fire. He is self-illumination. The Atman, as the subtlest principle, reveals himself as the supreme subject, never as an object. He has to be revealed within and not imported from outside. The subtlety of the perceiving faculty should reach such an extent that even the subject should cease. In this extreme subtlety of being, we become less and less subjective and are also not objective, and thus become that which is, or thatness. It is called tathata, tathat in the Buddhist language, tathat. It is not subjectivity nor objectivity, but something more. It is not seeing the Atman, but you become the Atman. You are He. As said in an earlier mantra, it is the Atman beholding the Atman, not the intellect, mind, or senses. A small effort will not bring the Atman. It requires the total sacrifice of your personality, not merely of family, home, etc. This is the treading of the subtle inner path. The following mantra can be regarded as explanatory notes of mantras 10 and 11. Okay.
सूक्ष्मदर्शी can reveal it here. सूक्ष्मदर्शी जो बिल्कुल इसमें
हाँ जी, आपकी आवाज़ ना थोड़ी कट कट के आ रही है हरीश जी, पूरी नहीं पता लगती क्या आप बोल रहे हैं. तो अगला मंत्र जो है उसकी ओर बढ़ते हैं. नंबर 13. यच्छेद वान मनसी प्रजनस तद यच्छेज ज्ञान आत्मनि ज्ञानाम आत्मनि महति नियेचेत तद यचेत शांतव आत्मनि. सो ट्रांसलेशन में आगे आएगा. Vak is speech, representing all senses. The speech has to be offered in the mind, manasi, in Vedic style. The intelligent seeker, the person of knowledge, should offer up the senses into the mind. This process is called pratyahara in Patanjali's yoga system. Yeah. It is that condition in which the senses stand together with the mind in such a way that they are indistinguishable from it. They lose their luster in the radiance of the mind. The sun's light falls on vessel. The former is different from the latter. Even so, when you see an object, the sense powers get so much attuned that they may be said to be one with it. You become one with the object. They are not conscious. They are given an internal light and act as an instrument in communicating it. The mind is the source which gives adequate power to the senses for them to behold objects. The senses get attuned to their form. They are not in physical contact. It is psychological energy that pervades the object called vyapti, vritti vyapti. The mind takes the form of the object, and for the time being, you are psychologically identified with the object. You become the object. This is an undesirable state of affairs. Because you have become what you are not, the Atman has become the Anatman through a vritti. This is sensory perception and attachment. We become not merely conscious of objects, but also attached to them in an emotional manner. So the senses have to be withdrawn into the mind. These senses are not the psychological organ, it is a mental force which channelizes itself through the senses and covers the object. The mind again is inert, which is revealed in deep sleep. Just as the mirror is not capable of reflection without another light, so is the mind merely a conglomeration of Prakriti, only the Purusha is intelligent. So, neither the mind nor the senses are wholly responsible for perception. The enjoyer is a peculiar combination of the light of the Atman, the mind and the senses, as explained in verse 4 of this section. The sunlight passes through a doorway, and inside the room is a mirror on which the light falls. The mirror receives and reflects the light, illumining the dark corner of the room. Even so, the Atman does not directly illumine the objects. The mind receives the Atman light and reflects it on them. The technique of Pratyahar starts with recognizing the difference between the objects, the light reflected and the original light. The sunlight is different from the mirror light and the wall. There is only a shine seen on the wall. The light has to be withdrawn from the wall, which is to say that the senses have to be withdrawn from the objects. This cannot be done unless the mind is moved, but the mind cannot be taken away since it is not an object like a mirror. And sense withdrawal is different from any kind of laboratory investigation. It is an internal isolation to be done. Truly speaking, meditation starts with pratyahara. No asana or pranayam is necessary. The Upanishad goes straight to the psychological stage, teaching that by an act of concentration attended with intelligence. The objects are being isolated from object knowledge, just as the light shining on the wall is different from it. Not to know this is samsara. For the Atman to become anatman is samsara. The affirmation, therefore, should be I am not the object, I cannot be the object. The mind which sees it is different from it. The senses are the five rays of the mental light, like a candle in a pot with five holes through which the rays jet out. This radiance coming out through the five holes is sensory perception, which is really mental perception. We are different from the objects illuminated by the mental rays, but the rays are not different from the light, and neither are the senses from the mind. Now, the mind and the senses are incapable of perceiving objects because they are inert, should be the attitude of the intellect. Thus, the mind should be offered into intellect like the senses into the mind. The mind does not cognize objects as we can see in sleep. It is the judgment of the intellect acting as an intermediary between the Atman and the mind, which is responsible for individual perception. The senses and the mind are wholly dependent on the intellect, it being the nearest to reality. The intellect affirms itself and everything depends upon it finally. In this meditation, in which the senses and the mind and intellect come together, one stage of the meditative process is achieved. It should not be mistaken for the whole of yoga, as is often done in the West. Peace of mind brought about by this stage is not yoga. It is only coming back to yourself from the empirical point of view. This success is not final and is not yoga sakshatkar. Sense control is not over here. According to the Kathopanishad, though you may have no longer have gross passions and may be a highly cultured person. Now we come to the bottleneck. We cannot go beyond this stage. He should restrain the intellect in the great self, and that is tranquility. All are held up here because the passage and becomes narrow and only one person can go through. Not even your guru can be taken. You have to go alone. Straight is the way of the spirit. Even your body is too big and you will have to shed it. Every student of yoga fails when he comes to this point because he has a tendency to look upon what he has left and his heart goes back to all of it. And this thought is enough to bring him back. This is the state of yoga bhrashta. It seems that no one is fit for yoga. This leaving the body is not killing it, but transcendence. It is a spiritual activity that we are concerned with here. To leave the world and body is to be dissociated in consciousness with them, but we cannot do this. Things persist in the form of memories. This is especially true for householders, for whom it is hard to become real yogins. Now, how hard it is will be told in the next mantras, which are the heart of the Upanishad. If you are fortunate enough to understand them, You are blessed. The difficulty is to turn from the particular to the universal, which man has not seen or understood, nor can hope to understand. While it is difficult enough to turn from the objects of to the senses, from the senses to the mind and to the intellect, it is far more difficult to turn to the universal. But this is what is needed. Here it is that we require initiation. Up to the stage of the intellect, you may practice yoga without it, but after that, it gets difficult because you cannot find the next one explained in any book, nor can you find a guru who has attained it. Only a few get that far. How the individual buddhi can be attuned to the cosmic intellect is the higher yoga of the spirit. An initiation from a proper guru is essential, and no true initiation is possible unless your passions are subdued. The senses have to be controlled and the mind merged in the intellect, otherwise, it is like touching dynamite. You should not go with passion to the Guru for initiation. You should have transcended even the intellect. Pratyahar is over. The individual intellect has to be reabsorbed into the cosmic intellect or Mahat Tattva. A further description is not needed here. We will know what to do when we get to this point. However, the Upanishad gives a hint from Mahat Tattva, which is Hiranyagarbha, they call it. But Yatindraji disagrees with that explanation. You go to Ishvara, the Shant Atma, while the intellect is the connection of consciousness with a particular point of view, that which is higher is the association of consciousness with all points of view. You have no point of view when you get to that stage. Instead, the points of view of all objects are yours. Instead of visualizing one object, you will visualize all objects. You will say, all are mine, instead of saying, this is mine. It is the shifting of the mind from one thing, one body, one object, one point of view to all things, all bodies, all objects, all points of view. The buddhi has to be transmuted in the realm of Mahat Tattva. Hence, yoga here is sometimes called otherworldliness. It is otherworldly in the sense that it is a science which takes the mind from the particular to the universal. And if the universal can be regarded as otherworldly, so can yoga. But the universal is not otherworldly because it is here and everywhere. Interesting set of words.
It's
But
very long explanation, yeah.
yeah. Any thoughts
The
from
main
anyone? या बताइए क्या
main pratihar
या आपकी आवाज़ नहीं पूरी आती वाईफाई की प्रॉब्लम लग रही है हरीश जी
is frozen.
या फ्रोजन वीडियो फ्रोजन वॉइस फ्रोजन any thoughts from anyone हिंदी में कुछ भी समझ में जो भी आया हो समराइज करने के लिए राज जी कुछ कहने वाले हैं?
हाँ, नहीं, वही वही सेंट्रल थीम है,
हाँ जी,
अभ्यास है, रिपीट रिपीट रिपीट।
या अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय।
हाँ, and it is necessary to repeat.
या
Like some people complain, it's the same thing, it's the same thing. Yeah, but it's the same thing, yes, but that is the central point, and we have to hear it again and again. And
yeah, yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying the other day, that um, uh, this is my difficulty as well. So I know that the uh, valid valid point is that I need to see myself and everything as universally, but I have a difficulty. I cannot really see it, and if I just say it, yes, yes, I see, मैं सबको एक ही मान, I'm I'm kind of lying because I'm not there yet. So I'm not honest with myself. So ये डिफ़िकल्टी तो है, इसमें यही बता रहे हैं कि इट इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट, एंड आपको उसके लिए एक सदगुरु की ज़रूरत है. Not Sadguru, but proper Sadguru ki.
but I think, Deepak ji, that see these uh, uh, great वाक्य, ये ये एक समूह के लिए है.
हाँ,
ये जैसे कोई गृहस्थ आदमी है, उसके लिए, क्योंकि इतनी परिस्थितियां आती रहती हैं,
हाँ,
तो उसमें ये एकदम इसको इसका जो है प्रयोग या उपयोग करना बहुत मुश्किल है.
मुश्किल है, या सही बात है.
हाँ, अब जैसे वसुधैव कुटुंबकम,
या
हमारे लिए तो भक्ति थोड़ी बहुत
हालांकि
हम कर सकते हैं.
एक सेकंड बहन जी, हालांकि नेता लोग और सभी लोग भारत से कहते हैं, तो दो बातें हैं इसमें. एक तो ये है कि वसुधैव कुटुंबकम इज मेंट फॉर ए पर्टिकुलर कम्युनिटी, समूह जो कि आध्यात्मिक है, ये सबके लिए नहीं है.
या
और दूसरी बात ये है कि हम कहते रहें तो हमें हमें वो समझना चाहिए, दूसरे लोग तो कहते भी नहीं है.
या
तो ये संसार की वास्तविकता है. तो
या
मैं
दूसरों को तो
इसी
पता
तरह
भी
से
नहीं कि क्या है इसका मीनिंग, क्या है क्या नहीं. वो तो जस्ट जस्ट अपने नेता लोगों ने भी उसको प्रचलित कर दिया है, जस्ट फॉर देयर ओन सेटिस्फैक्शन, कि हाँ हम जाते हैं, हमारे कुछ बोलने के लिए हमारे पास है, कि
नहीं
हम
नहीं, वो
कुछ.
भुलावे में डाल रहे हैं हमको भुलावे में डाल रहे हैं.
या या
मोहन जी कुछ कह रहे थे.
हाँ जी, मोहिनी जी.
नहीं, मैंने यही कहा कि हम लोगों के लिए ये प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है. हम तो बस थोड़ा सा कर्म जो कर सकेंगे अच्छा, और भक्ति हम कर सकते, और हमारे में इतना पावर नहीं है ये सब कुछ अटेन करने के लिए. शायद अगले जन्म में हो सकता है, इस जन्म में तो हम.
चलिए, थोड़ा सा इसके बीज तो पड़ रहे हैं ना. थोड़ा सा इसकी स्टडी करने से तो
आगे हेल्प
सबने
मिल
कहा
सकता
था
है.
कि करते हैं इसकी स्टडी, तो हम लोग करने लग गए. और यतेंद्र जी तो पहले पूछते रहते हैं कि आप बताइए, स्टडी करना है नहीं करना है, क्योंकि देन ही सेज, सब फिर मुझे कहते हैं कि भैया आप हमें बहुत ज़्यादा डीप सब्जेक्ट्स में घुसेड़ रहे हैं. हमें हमें तो इसका कुछ पता नहीं लग रहा.
नहीं, स्टडी करने में तो कोई हर्ज नहीं है, कुछ
हाँ
ना
जी,
कुछ तो मिल ही सकता है.
या कुछ ना कुछ तो मिलेगा ही.
ऐसी बात भी नहीं है.
या चलिए, तो ये अब आ गया जो हेडिंग इसका, एग्जोर्टेशन एंड कॉल टू द वे ऑफ लिबरेशन फ्रॉम डेथ. वाह, ये हेडिंग है और ये नंबर 14 श्लोक आ गया इसका, इस चैप्टर का। तो इसमें कहते हैं उत्तिष्ठ जाग्रतः प्राप्या वरान निबोधत। आई थिंक दिस वन इज अ वेरी फेमस श्लोक। निबोधत चुरस्य धारा निशिता दुरत्याया दुर्गम पठस तत् कव्यो वदन्ति। My dear children, do not think it is easy. Do not sleep and try to get this Atman. Stand up, be awake, be conscious, obtain wisdom properly by being initiated from a competent guru. Understanding this, sharp it is and cutting as the edge of a razor and hard to cross. Sharp and cutting are the two epithets of the sword. The edge of the sword is cutting, so sharp it is it. Such is the sharpness of this yoga, so subtle that you cannot even see it. The path of the spirit is invisible. You cannot open your eyes and see it. It is like the track of the birds in the air or the fish in the water. They are there but cannot be seen. This path of supreme wisdom is subtle in the sense that it is a balance of everything. The spirit is balance, and no one in this world can maintain a balance. We either fall this way or that, we go to either extreme but never are in the middle. Balance is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. This is an exposition as well as guidance on the path of inward sadhana. The great method of meditation has been explained as the gradual self withdrawal not only in the realm of world perception but also beyond. It may look magnificent, but the Upanishad warns us of its difficulty. It may oftentimes look impossible, hence, we are cautioned to be careful in every single day of practice. But this is extremely hard to do because, as the verse describing Karta and Bhokta states, our consciousness gets commingled with the mind and senses in every one of their activities. We as persons do not stand as Atman, as mind or as senses only, but all these blend and act as a focus in which not only they but we ourselves become conscious of the world. We do not say the senses see, the eyes see, the mind sees. We say, I see the world. This is so because the light of the Atman moves through the senses to the objects as discussed earlier. Hence, the process of self withdrawal is not merely of the senses. They are not the only culprits and are not wholly responsible. Meditation of consciousness demands its extrication firstly from objects, then from the senses, and finally from the mind and intellect. Consciousness passes through the intellect, mind, and then the senses, and in a secondary connection, we are not only attached to our body but through it to many objects outside and to those they are connected to. This is Sansara Chakra. Due to the original sin of consciousness getting identified with buddhi, so is the psychological creation of the universe, what is called Jiva Srishti, the world of bondage. distinguished from Ishvara Srishti. The yoga of the Upanishad is not any attempt at interfering with Ishvara Srishti, but an honest attempt to withdraw from our own creation, which has made a mess and not added a cubit to God's doing.